When Pat Malloy was in about sixth grade, his mother noticed that the same genetic affliction that had struck his father had been passed down to him. And so when he was 15, she took a microcassette recorder into the local DMV, was walked through the eye test by a technician, and delivered the recorded cassette to Pat for memorization. Pat lived as a sighted person for nearly the next decade, despite not being able to read a stop sign until he's already parked at it. And even then, not really. They're just familiar. In his early 20s, Pat drifted into alcohol and was fired from his job at his parents' auto rental business and spiraled. When he was in his mid-20s, he was trying to get back on the right track, having gone through recovery and AA, and he was 6 months into his now 30-plus year sobriety, and he had confessed to his vision impairment. On an after-Christmas trip, his parents were killed when a series of rogue waves off the Isle of Tortuga took out their scuba vessel, a heavy trawler, killing all but one lone survivor. Against the odds, the franchisor for their auto rental business and the executor trustee of the estate allowed Pat to run the business. Within 3 years, Pat was operating one of the top locations in the franchise network, was selected to speak at an annual conference, and was rolling in the back of a stretch mini-limo and being shuttled around by his rental car staff. Being part of the in crowd had its perks and its dangers. A local ophthalmologist helped Pat get a medical waiver and get his driver's license back. And he sold the rental business, moved around the country and traveled, started and closed or sold other businesses, got married, and lived again as a sighted person for another decade. Eventually, Pat got divorced and moved to Eaton from the Lyons area, and nothing felt safe or familiar. And so he sacrificed his driving privileges again in 2012. This is a wild one with lots of moral ambiguity, inspirational entrepreneurship, and an almost constant investigation of purpose and overcoming. Pat works at the youth shelter for the Matthews House in Loveland, and he's got a lot of talent in business and construction and time on his hands. So if you hear this conversation and have a new side quest for Pat Malloy and can provide transportation, email him at pat.malloy@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to The Loco Experience. If this episode inspires you, please share it with a friend. Welcome to the Loco Experience podcast. On this show, you'll get to know business and community leaders from all around northern Colorado and beyond. Our guests share their stories, and through it all, you'll be inspired and entertained. These conversations are real and raw, and no topics are off limits. So pop in a breath mint and get ready to meet our latest guest. Welcome back to the Loco Experience podcast. My guest today is Pat Malloy. And Pat works on the floor staff at the Landing Youth Shelter in Loveland that's operated by the Matthews House. He's also on the Disability Advisory Board for the City of Fort Collins. He's a very active volunteer and many-time entrepreneur. And he's visually impaired and was showing me before we got started like what his world looks like, how far away he can read his clock on his phone compared to me, why he didn't drive here today, although he has driven a lot of miles.
Yes, that's a true statement. Very true statement.
Welcome to the show, Pat. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I drove a lot of miles, but I never did it legally. When I was 15 years old, my mom tape recorded an eye test for me. I memorized it, and that's how I started driving. I was never, ever supposed to drive.
Really? So she just knew what the eye chart looked like somehow?
Well, what she did was we lived in Oregon, Hillsboro, Oregon, and she stuck back in the day a little microcassette into her purse. She walks into the motor vehicles department pretending she cannot afford an eye test and her eyes are bothering her. Mind you, I'm sitting in her Mercedes-Benz out in the parking lot. She literally says, "I can't afford the eye test, and I was wondering if you could help me." So they let her take the eye test. She brings it out to the parking lot. I click and listen to the recording a couple of times, walk in and take the eye test with no idea of what
You can't see any of those letters,
no.
Not even the biggest one.
Not even the biggest one. Then went out and took the driving test, but I grew up on a farm, so I'd already been driving for years, scored a 98 on the driving test, and off I went.
And then there was no reason to really test you again after that, right? They don't test me each time.
No, they don't. In Oregon, they didn't retest you. I moved states. I had ended up moving to Arizona in my early 20s and had to do the process all over again in order to continue the process of driving.
Had your girlfriend go pretend to take the eye test, or what? How did you pass the eye test?
My parents had
she
moved,
still helped.
and my mom was there to help.
So she's an accomplice in this a little bit. But you haven't run
Absolutely.
anybody over or anything?
In the beginning, I had a lot of accidents.
Oh, gosh.
I had a bit of a drinking problem. That didn't help.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I had a whole bunch of accidents. But once I kind of started figuring it out, what I could see, what I couldn't.
Yeah.
Because I got
How to anticipate where those blobs are moving.
Well, it's kind of like as you're coming up to a stoplight, I couldn't really see the light, but I could see traffic moving in front of me. So,
Right. So
obviously there's cars moving east to west, and I'm heading northbound.
Right.
So I learned all these
self-preservation kind of style.
I just learned a whole bunch of tricks as to how to do it, how to make it work.
Could you see where the crosswalk was or where to stop kind of?
When I don't remember back then, but by the time I quit driving and I just got tired of lying in 2012, and I was driving big one-ton trucks, hauling cattle, horses, equipment. Like I wasn't just cruising around in a car.
Wow.
By the time I quit driving with a cheater device that I could wear that would help me a little bit, it's called a monocular device. It's a pair of glasses with like a little telescope on the top that you look through with your right eye, meaning a telescope turned.
Right, so you can see a tiny field of view.
4 tiny field of view and only 4 times magnification. So with my vision at that time 20 times worse than the average person, it was putting to me to 16 times worse than the average person. And I could only see the color of a traffic light 1 pickup truck away from the crosswalk.
Okay.
As long as I was stopped. I mean, moving is a whole different world, I ran a lot of red lights, no accidents. I never had any accidents after my 20s.
So I guess we could talk about, do you want to talk about your work a little bit too? Or should we start going back further, like why did this happen to you? And it's obviously it's not correctable.
It's not correctable. The disease is a genetic disease. The way that I describe it to people is you have your eyeball, and most diseases that you hear about in the world of vision loss have to do with the eyeball.
Okay.
My disease has nothing to do with the eyeball. It has to do with the optic nerves coming off the frontal lobe of the brain and where it touches. Okay. And the tips of those optic nerves are just slowly atrophying, slowly dying. Mm-hmm. Ironically enough, in the
kind of like a chronic wasting disease or something like that.
Very much. And ironically enough, in the last 10 years, for some reason, it has stopped. Oh. We don't really know why. One of the blessings in my life is there's nothing wrong with my eyeballs. So most likely, if the optic nerve was healthy, I probably wouldn't even need glasses. So I don't deal with color blindness or peripheral loss or blurriness or any of those things that some other people...
Put up close enough, you've got pretty good vision.
To me, the vision's pretty good anyway. In my world, it seems normal because I don't live in the world of a sighted person. So in my world, everything seems normal. But when I'm working with somebody or somebody waves from me across the room and I can't see them, I have no idea. And they got to say, hey, Pat, I know I'm not the same, but I feel the same.
So one of the gifts that I give our podcast guests here is this hot sauce that the Matador Mexican Grill manufactures for us.
Right.
Loco's Crazy Ginger hot sauce.
Yeah.
Can I hand this to you and you can look at it and
so here at this instance, I know I'm holding a bottle. I know there's some sort of light colored label and there's a dark colored top on it.
Okay.
So I know, and I call people visual cues, meaning my brain is filling in the blank spots.
Right. I've already told you it's hot sauce. So
and you
kind of
told
know
me
the shape of it and stuff.
The bottle looks like a Tabasco sauce, which is kind of a generic name. Now, Now, I know I cannot read the top. There's no way. At this close, I know there's lettering there. I know there's lettering at the top. I think there might be a picture of a woman on the front.
That's true.
Yeah, okay. And that's a visual cue because of a hand that I think is right here on the face.
Yeah, that's true.
If that hand wasn't there, I don't have the visual cue, and I think she might have red hair.
That is true, because it's called Crazy Ginger hot sauce.
Oh, ginger
And
as in
so,
red hair.
right? That it's the redheaded girl that looks innocent, but she's gonna burn you probably.
Yeah. So very interesting. So, but again, my brain is like trying to figure it out. I don't
Right.
just look at it and know.
You've got some cues that that's a woman shape. That
Yeah,
kind of with some
it's
hair.
it's visual cues, that are my brain is trying to fill in the blanks and processing to try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And how old were you when your parents or you all came to realize that your sight was not good?
The disease came from my father. They didn't really think that I had it. And at about the 6th grade was when there was some radical changes. I grew up racing sailboats on the Columbia River in Oregon.
Okay.
And I used to be able to just, my parents said had eagle eyes. I could see a train and pick something off the train or,
Right, or
whatever it
that
is.
seabird out there a long ways or whatever.
Yeah, no problem. But in the 6th grade, it started to change. Like, I was pretty shy, and sitting in the back of the room, I could no longer see the chalkboard.
And you said you inherited it from your father. Did he also suffer from it, or he was
Yes.
a recessive? Mark?
No, he had it, and my mother, that's why she was experienced at the line for the driver's license, because she did it for him.
Okay.
Let's call it was a family secret.
Yes,
And
that
it
sounds nicer.
kind of made sense, because you go back generational. That
There was
what are you
not
going to
nearly
do?
as much accommodation. You don't want to just live in a home for blind people or something.
Yeah, make straw baskets or brooms was one of the big ones that they
Right.
did.
Right.
So it was a family secret because they wanted to drive, because how were you going to exist without driving?
Yeah.
So it was just the norm.
If Uber was around, it probably would have been easier to decide what to.
Yeah, and if we grew up in the country, so that
Sure.
made it even more difficult. What was I going to do if I couldn't drive? And
Yeah.
what would he have done if he couldn't drive?
Yeah.
So we just kept it a secret.
And what was his vocation or vocations?
My father, as a young kid, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, somewhere around there, my father was in the real estate business in Oregon. And then the
6th, 7th, 8th grade. Is that what you said?
as I was in the 6th, 7th, 8th
okay.
grade. So
No.
whatever age,
I was like,
age is
dang,
that
that's
is.
an early entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yes, as
Yeah.
he's a 30-something.
Yeah, he's a
person.
30-something. He was in the real estate business. And as I got in, I'm around 15, 16 years old, he became a general contractor and was buying land and building subdivisions.
Yeah.
The economy crashed big time in 82, 83, and they essentially sold everything and decided to move to Tucson from Oregon for whatever reason and opened up a car rental business in Tucson, Arizona.
And with you and other siblings, or just you?
I came in later and helped them. The other siblings moved along with them but never got involved in the car rental business.
Okay.
I came along later with them and got involved in the car rental business, and then
And you're how old at this point? You're
63.
no, but when you moved to Arizona from Oregon.
21 probably.
Oh, okay.
21,
okay.
22.
So the kids were mostly all kind of grown.
We were all grown. My little sister was still in school. I think at that time she might have been a junior.
Yeah.
Had a couple of years left, so she was still in school. I don't even recall what my other sister. Oh, she didn't move down there. She stayed in Oregon and was living in Oregon.
So in Oregon, were you involved with the construction business as
Absolutely.
well, and pounding nails and climbing things? And
Absolutely. My introduction to the construction business was at 15 years old. My father took me to a house that he was one of the houses that he was building.
Okay.
With a set of nail bags, a hammer, a box of nails. There was a bunch of underlayment chipboard, I think it was called chipboard back then,
Yeah.
essentially sawdust put together with sawdust.
Yep.
And that's what we used as a subfloor.
Yeah.
And he dropped me off and
That's
said,
it's all patchy looking, kind of whatever.
yes, he dropped me off and he said, hey, I want you to put the subfloor down. No instruction, nothing. Just expected me to do it. And that was beginning into the construction. I've done, I started framing houses only a year or so after that when I started driving.
Cool.
I worked on framing houses, and I have just a tremendous amount of experience in the construction trades.
Yeah.
And building and remodeling and all that stuff that all came. Plus, naturally, growing up on a farm, you just kind of have to learn to fix everything.
Yeah. I mean, there's nobody's gonna fix it for you.
No.
It's funny, like North Dakota is where my family farm is, and we've had a few years over the last 15 or whatever that have been like super wet, with like combines getting stuck out in the fields
Wow,
and
that's
stuff like
wet,
that,
yeah.
and they're big and heavy, and there's no like pull my combine out for me service.
Yes.
Like, you got to figure it out, or you got to round up 2 more neighbors and everybody bring your biggest, longest cables, and it's going to be a party pulling this freaking combine that's buried up to the axles out of the mud.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
I've dealt with all of those kind of things. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's just nobody going to do it for you.
Nobody's
So
going to
do it.
help you. The neighbors will come over and help you, and the neighbors will be like, "You idiot, why did you do that?" And it's like,
True.
Because no matter what, they're going to give you a hard time about it. But ultimately, out in the country, my experience is they're really going to be there to help you and do whatever it takes.
Yeah,
to
there's
get you
no
out of this.
Combine Towers Inc.
No.
out there
No.
or anybody there's not enough of that to actually support an enterprise. But
And if there was, the farmer's not going to want to pay the bill or can afford it.
that's true too.
No way in the world, a farmer is going to pay somebody when they're like, I can do anything and fix anything.
So how'd the car rental business go? And I guess this is probably pretty growing years in Tucson.
Yeah, growing years in Tucson. I had a bit of a drinking problem. My parents
Okay.
ended up firing me from the car rental business. I ended up in a treatment center for my drinking problem on July 5th of 1989.
Okay.
A series of things happened in my life, and I had been lying that whole time to get my driver's license. After leaving the treatment center, I decided at that point to quit lying. And this happened for a brief period of time. I tell people when I was 32, I relapsed on driving. So for a period of time, I did give up my driver's license and quit driving. I was about 6 months sober. My parents, the day after Christmas, left to go to San Carlos, Mexico, to go on a scuba diving trip. When I had been in that treatment center, my father said he wanted to learn how to scuba dive, and they left the 26th of December 1989 to go on that trip.
And they left their liquor cabinet unlocked.
Well, I wasn't drinking, so...
Oh, that wasn't okay.
Yeah, I wasn't drinking.
Oh,
so
you
they
started
could-
driving. That was your driving relapse, not drinking relapse.
The driving relapse actually happened a little bit later in life. So what happened is my parents take off to San Carlos, Mexico. I come home on the evening of January 2nd, 1990, to my parents' house. They were allowing me to live there because I was working on my sobriety, and the phone was ringing. I walked into my parents' house. I answer the phone, an old-fashioned landline, a yellow AT&T phone with the... No, we were high class.
buttons.
We had the push buttons.
Oh, yeah.
We even had the cordless phone that you pulled the AT&T
Oh, dang.
phone.
Yeah.
One of those. The phone is ringing, and I pick up the phone, and a man on the other end of the line asked for Mr. Malloy. I said, "He's not here. This is his son. How can I help you?" His exact words were, "My name is Eric Healy. I'm with the Arizona Daily Star, and I'm sorry to tell you, but both of your parents are presumed dead, their bodies lost at sea, along with 12 other people."
Oh, damn.
What had happened, and I found this out from a survivor by the name of Ofra Watson, is that at 2 o'clock in the morning on January 1st, a 74-foot trawler that had been converted into a scuba diving vessel they were coming home. They were supposed to be in the port at 6 o'clock a.m., January 1st, 1990. A rogue wave and high, heavy seas hit the ship behind Tortuga Island in the Gulf of California
What?
and sunk the ship in 3 waves. In 3 waves, a 74-foot trawler completely gone.
That's crazy. I've been to Tortuga Island.
Yeah.
And it
right?
seems like a calm sea kind of, but I guess
Yeah, so this
occasionally the
would be-
rogues come in.
The west side of Tortuga Island.
Yeah.
So, gone. Now, I know the rest of this because of Ofra Watson. Ofra Watson was tossed into the water. He knew the ship was going down, so to not get sucked down, he started swimming. When he went in, he had been sleeping on the top deck of the ship, and his gear bag went in with him. So he was able to grab his gear bag that had his wetsuit because the water was 65 degrees. He swam. The ship disappeared. It's pitch black. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. He hears voices. He swims towards the voices. As he's doing that, he decides he better get his wetsuit on or hypothermia is going to set in. He puts his wetsuit on somehow in the water, and he was in his 60s at this time. He then collects some debris, less debris
Floaty
than
stuff.
Yeah, less debris than probably half the size of this room. There was a door, there was a broken piece of wood, and there was a gas tank. He used that debris and he went towards the voices. One of the voices I would learn later from him was my mom, and one of the voices was another couple that I don't remember their name. He said, we were all hopeful until the sun came up, and he said, can you imagine? There's 4 of us floating in the Gulf of California, no land to be seen anywhere, and the light has come up and you realize you're in a dire situation. He said the talking stopped of the hope, and we're just floating. He believes that my mother died most likely of hypothermia at about 10 o'clock in the morning of January 1st, and she was in a nightgown and laying partially on a door, and he said it was about noon that a wave hit that door, and he said she literally just sunk and disappeared into the ocean. The wife of the other gentleman, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she floated off, was dead. And he said it wasn't far after that the husband, the man that was left, swore he saw land, started swimming towards land, and he said he disappeared and obviously drowned. Then Ofer Watson was picked up 36 hours later by a fishing trawler Hispanics, didn't speak any English, and his wetsuit was red, had red and black on it, and they saw the red, and they thought they didn't even know a ship had sunk.
Right. Wow.
So they thought they were going to get some fortune, something expensive floating in the water, and they roll up and they're pulling a 60-something-year-old man out of the water, and he can't speak Spanish, they can't speak English, he has no idea. He was taken back to San Carlos, treated for hypothermia, and left the next day, hopped in his car, and went home.
Wow. And where does that leave you?
Well, what happened then, through a series of circumstances, I received the information on January 2nd, 1990, which was a Tuesday. On January 5th, 1990, was the reading of a will as we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. Because what we have now is a car rental business with 60 some odd cars, 7 employees, a lot of bills. We have a home.
Yeah.
But we have 2 bodies.
A recovering alcoholic.
A recovering alcoholic who's 26 years old, is no longer drives, is considered legally blind, has no college education.
Yeah. And 2 brothers that are not in the state.
Yeah, 2 sisters.
2 sisters, sorry.
And a former drug dealer. So I wasn't a good guy. So they read the will and they tried to figure out what we're going to do. And through a series of circumstances that is an incredibly long story, they decided, okay, we're going to give Pat a chance. I have no idea why. On Monday morning, I show up to my parents' car rental business with, as I said, no experience in anything, sat down at my dad's desk and started trying to figure it out. I had not much money, and I had a list of things that I had to accomplish in order to get the...
So there wasn't really any life insurance or anything like that to speak of?
No, ironically enough, I would learn a few weeks later from a man by the name of Paul March that was my parents' insurance agent that my father was opening up a life insurance policy for $1 million, and he said, I'll sign it when I get back.
Oh, damn.
He didn't ever sign it. I ultimately only ended up inheriting about $100,000 and used that $100,000 to purchase out my sister's portions of the car rental business. Okay. And took off in the car rental business. For reasons which I don't understand, especially in today's world for me, I became uber successful. I was a natural at it.
And this is mid-90s?
1990.
Oh, early 90s.
Yeah. Okay. Literally July. I started in the car rental business on January 7th, 1990.
Okay.
And I became very successful at it and had to do a lot of learning. There was no Google. And I couldn't see books.
Do you have a mentor or anything like that?
Heck no. I couldn't trust anybody. Everybody wanted money from me. Everybody thought, oh, we're going to get money from this guy.
Right.
I just figured it out step by step of what to do. Made some mistakes, but always paying the bills. I didn't even have credit. I had to go out in order to get a credit card and give a $500 deposit in order to get a credit card with $500 on it. Right. That's the only way I could do it. I worked really hard.
But you stayed sober through this too. Yeah, because you had a new focus.
I had a new focus. I've never drank. I never relapsed.
That was your done.
I've been sober 36 plus years now. I think 37 years this year.
Well, you'd probably never built that business if you were drinking and stuff.
I would have. If I was still drinking, they wouldn't have even. They wouldn't have
given you an opportunity.
They wouldn't have known where I was at.
Right.
I would learn later because, as I say, I became very successful, very good at it, and other franchisees started, via the phone, there was nobody around, helping me answering questions. I would learn later because...
Oh, so this was a franchise.
Yes,
Okay.
U-Save Auto Rental was a franchise.
Got it.
I would learn later because I started receiving a lot of awards.
Okay,
And
like Franchisee of the Year and stuff like that.
Franchisee of the Award, Franchisee, most gross, most sales. All these awards started coming in for, at that time, the city of Tucson was a population of 700,000.
Oh, wow.
So I was for a population in that category of under 700,000. By the time I was 29 years old, I had received every award the franchise had to offer for a franchisee for a population of over $700,000. I was invited to be the
And were you publicly still vision impaired?
Yes.
Or did you... Okay.
Yes. And I can explain that in a second.
We'll come back to it.
So I'm 29 years old. I'm invited to be a keynote speaker at a car rental convention in Las Vegas, Nevada. And the president of the franchise, I'm sitting at his table, and the president of the franchise is getting ready to introduce me. I remember his assistant sitting there, and assistant said to me, Pat, I'm going to make you laugh during your speech. And I said, first of all, I won't be able to see you. And second of all, I guarantee you I'm going to make you cry. When the president went up to the lectern and introduced me, he said, I'm going to say something honest here that I've never said. What he said was, when we received the information that Pat Malloy's parents were killed and their bodies lost at sea, we had a decision to make. He said the decision was, do we pull the franchise agreement from this young man, or what do we do? He said, I, as the president, and all the board members decide we're going to let Pat fail on his own. That way we're not the bad guy. He said, I am here 3 years later inviting him up to be our keynote speaker because he didn't fail. He's one of our top franchisees in the country. I was already, shortly after that, was teaching classes on how to get financing, teaching classes or seminars on how to retain employees, and just became super successful,
I'm getting more teary-eyed than you, but if you want one of these, you can.
Yeah. I've told this story, and I'm telling you pieces of this.
It's just a little bit of it.
I'm telling you
just
pieces.
imagining your situation and how so much of your future was hinged on that decision of that group of people, right?
Totally, and many other people. An example is on Friday the 5th of January, 5 days after they're killed, when I'm sitting in First Interstate Bank I remember everything perfectly. At Speedway in Swan, my uncle is called in, and my uncle says he's supposed to be the executor of the will. They read that, and he's like, there's no way I'm going to be an executor of this will, and he got up and walked out of the room. So I am now stuck. What do? I remember sitting at a gigantic conference table, and the lady that ran the bank, her name was Arlene Colzer. Arlene is sitting...
you have.
I've told the story a few times.
That's fair.
Yeah. Arlene was sitting there, and they're getting ready. I mean, all the counts have been frozen. There's nobody to sign. Right, everything is frozen.
You weren't a signer or any of their stuff or anything
nothing,
like that.
Nothing. And what we learned quickly is because my parents were lost in international waters, you couldn't get death certificates. It was a very big deal to get proof of death. They insurance companies literally acted like my parents had faked
Until you
death.
Find the bodies.
Yeah.
And bring them to us. We're not going to pay you.
Yeah, and we're talking 14 people here.
Right.
So my Arlene Colzer...
Do you know that there's two things that insurance companies hate?
What are those two?
Accepting risk and paying claims.
Yeah, those very good. And I can tell you that it's a very true statement. So Arlene, she wants to give me a chance. And this is back in the days of when bankers, you had a personal relationship.
Yep.
And she had a personal relationship with my parents, and she knew about my past and knew I was only 6 months sober. In fact, my parents were killed on January 1st, 1990. And on January 4th, 1990, in a 12-step program, I received my 6-month sobriety chip.
Wow.
And as I say, have stayed sober ever since. So that Friday, Arlene comes into the room, and she says, Pat, I told the bankers I wanted to give you a chance. And I cannot believe she did this. She said to them, I told them if you failed within the next 7 days, the list of things which she gave them, that they could pull the money out of my retirement account and I would take responsibility.
She vouched for you.
She vouched for me. I remember sitting across from this massive conference table, probably 6 feet wide. And I wanted to say no. And I said, yes, thank you. And I remember literally my brain going, who said that? Like, what?
Yeah.
The first thing that they had to do was I had to get an executor for this estate. And mind you, we're talking a nightmare. A kid with no experience, a kid with a drinking problem, no death certificates. We're talking a nightmare, and very public, because we're in the newspaper, stories being done about.
Right. Well, and for whatever reason, through his career, your dad had become successful enough to have your mama in a Mercedes when she was sneaking you guys through driving tests.
Well, my dad was very successful, and it's a whole other story. But we had a big car had a big car collection. They sold the car collection. That's how they ended up financing.
Oh, wow.
And opening up the car rental business in Tucson. So I'm to get a executor. There was an attorney there. My uncle had brought in an attorney. There was an attorney. I remember walking out of the meeting, and the attorney says to me, he goes, Pat, we need to find you an executor for this estate. And he said, what makes the most sense is First Interstate's trust department. We go down to Tucson, downtown Tucson, and we meet a man who's the head of the trust department by the name of Tom Ritchie. Tom looks at this whole scenario and he's like, there is no way in the world.
There is so much risk for the bank in this situation that I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Dan, you don't want to touch it with a 100-foot pole. He wants nothing to do with me. I remember getting into the elevator. Ironically, I have no idea who the attorney was. I had to pay that guy a lot of money.
Sure.
And we get in the elevator and he's like, Pat, we have a big problem here. I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. That's a Friday. On Monday morning, so now the 7th of January, I'm at my parents' my soon-to-be business, and the phone rings. And the manager says, Pat, there's a call for you. I said, who is it? They said, it's a man by the name of Tom Ritchie that works for First Interstate Bank. I get on the phone. I said, Tom, what can I do for you? And I learned very quickly I was going to have to be cocky. I could not be insecure. I could not come across without confidence.
If this was too big for you, then they would think so.
Yeah, I had to come across cocky and arrogant. I mean, that was instant to me in that meeting. Otherwise, they were going to be like, this guy can't do it. He's weak. He's insecure. So I got on the phone with Tom, and Tom says, Pat, I have changed my mind, and I personally am going to be the executor of your estate. He's like, why don't you come down and meet with us? Okay. I hung up the phone, and I'm thinking, what is going on? I call my attorney. My attorney asks me the same thing. I'm like, man, I don't know. But I'm not driving because I'm visually impaired. I've given up my driver's license and quit lying, trying to clean up my life.
Yep.
And
so, Mr. Attorney, you're picking me up.
He comes and gets me. Of course, I'm paying him 100 and whatever an hour to do this. He's probably happy. We go down, we walk into Tom's office, and Tom says, I'd like to talk with Pat for a moment. My attorney's like, I don't think so. I looked at Tom and I said, don't worry, I'm not going to sign anything. When my attorney walked out of the office, I literally stood up out of the chair, leaned over the desk, and said, Tom, what the blank is going on? He said, Pat, you better have a seat. When he went home on Friday, he was talking about, I met Pat Malloy, this guy that they're talking about on the news, whose parents died. He's talking about the newspaper article that he met me to his wife. His wife is like, that sounds like a name I know. His wife left the room. Comes back 20 minutes later. Says to her husband, I want you to be the executor of the estate. Her husband, Tom, says, that ain't happening. You ain't my boss. And he's telling me this story, sitting there. I'm like, get on. What? Who cares? His wife, that name sounded familiar. Went and called her mom. Tells her mom the story. And her mom says, I know who this is. back up a second. I forgot this. When Tom Ritchie called me on that morning, he asked who my grandma was. I'm like, my grandma? On which side of the family? He goes, I think your mom or your dad's side of the family. I said, her name is Blanche. That's when he then agreed. The minute I said the name Blanche, that's when he agreed to take this on.
Because his wife made him.
So not yet. So he had gone when and again, let's go back to, it's Friday, he's talking to his wife. When his wife left the room, his wife went and called her mother. Because the name sounded familiar. I would learn that Monday morning that my grandma, Blanche Malloy, who at the time had lived in Omaha, Nebraska, helped feed a family because a husband had died. That family was Tom Ritchie's wife's mother. And he said to me, Pat, my wife told me I am to pay this family debt back. So I am going to be personally the executor of your estate. Had that connection not occurred, call it whatever you want.
Yeah, that's like a 40 years later kind of payback.
40 years later.
Something.
Had that connection not occurred, I wouldn't have gotten the help that I got. Yeah. And Tom Ritchie stepped up step by step, holding my hand.
And he figured it out through the whole...
And he figured out, when we sat there and talked, and I'm like, my grandma now lives here in town. Her mother was alive, but still living in Omaha, Nebraska. And my grandma still lived in town. I don't remember if I connected them because they're, obviously a very hard part of my life. I was so focused on business and everything.
Sure.
But because of that connection in Omaha, Nebraska, 40 years earlier, and my grandma Blanche feeding his wife's mother's family, that family, I was able to move forward. Tom Ritchie took me on. He helped me with the finances. There was a whole bunch of restrictions, like you can't imagine, triple signing checks. Every time I had bills to pay, I had to get a driver from my business to take me down to see him. There's no email, no computers. Everything's the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
He helped me get the business going.
Kept growing, sounds like, and succeeded. And
I became very successful.
How big did you grow your team?
I stayed at seven employees.
Okay.
I ended up running about 80 vehicles.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say a huge business in my opinion.
Yeah.
I ended up running 80 vehicles. I learned how to specialize in things because it was very competitive. And I specialized in things that my parents had been doing. One of the things that they did was we rented cars down into Mexico, which took special insurance. They were able to take one of our cars, which was a whole nightmare to get that car out of San Carlos, Mexico.
Yeah.
That's parked in the parking lot. It's my car,
Right.
business car. So I ended up specializing in renting pickup trucks, big 15-passenger vans, and renting vehicles into Mexico. And then I ended up specializing in renting to people that didn't have credit cards. Learned how to do really good background checks without a computer, picking up references, and did deposits.
I'm going to call for a short break because I've been crying a little bit and stuff and want to just look less like a baby.
It's an emotional story, dude. I mean...
And we're going to sample the crazy ginger hot sauce here too in a little bit.
Yeah, the beautiful redhead. I assume she's beautiful. That's on
gorgeous.
The bottle.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
This episode is sponsored by Loco Think Tank. Loco Think Tank provides peer collaboration for business owners. We build smart, safe places to help business leaders navigate every stage of the business journey, and we love what we do and who we do it with. Our model features give-back-minded business veterans in the role of Loco facilitators, and we're always looking for abundance-minded individuals to add to our membership, facilitator team, Loco community, or to feature on this podcast. Listeners of this podcast who go on to become members of Loco Think Tank get their 6th month of membership for free. Just mention the Loco Experience podcast on your application. To learn more, visit our website at locothinktank.com. That's LOCO thinktank.com.
And we're back. Thank you for that short break. So this is where we get your authentic reaction to the crazy ginger hot sauce.
Okay, great.
Are you scared or not really?
It's making me think of, isn't there a show called ones or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a little bit inspired. I've been giving hot sauce to my guests for a couple of years.
Right.
The last one was like a 3 out of 5 peppers.
Right.
Maybe a 6 or a 5 on
Right.
the spice scale, and I just
Right.
didn't feel like it deserved the name, to be part of the Loco experience.
Right.
It has
Right.
to be a little bit crazy if you're going to be.
Okay, now I'm really
the
nervous
Loco experience.
as to what that experience is.
You can have choice. I poured both of those, so you can have either one. I think they're pretty equal.
Can't see it, so point.
Oh yeah, this one right here. Yep, and try to keep it level so that it doesn't spill. There you go, that one.
Okay, got it.
Yep. Oh, I forget. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't see that. Well, it's easy to forget if I would look more blind, but I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you pull off not be looking
Yeah.
blind.
Okay.
So, cheers, shalom.
Cheers. That's not terrible at all.
No.
That is awesome. It has a little bit of a... It's interesting. It's building a little bit of heat as it sits on my tongue,
Yeah.
but the first bite isn't like burning
No,
your
it's
mouth.
not intended to burn your face
No.
off.
It has a really good flavor to it. I like that. It has a great flavor.
Awesome.
It's not terrible hot, and it's not... yeah, that's good. I'm going to love enjoying that. Thank you for the
Awesome.
gift. I'm going to really enjoy.
Well, if you run out, then you can pick it up at Matador Mexican Grill. They
Okay.
have this available for sale.
And where is Matador Mexican
It's
Grill?
on Harmony Road, which is a very long walk, but I
Yeah.
assume you get down to the south side
Yeah,
once
yeah.
in a while. It's right by by the movie theater, or the Cold Stone ice cream shop is down there at Timberline and Harmony.
Okay, if you say so. But
Yeah.
yeah, I can't see that stuff. But I'll put it on. I have a friend. I'm involved in a Toastmasters club, and we go out to dinner once a month. So
Yeah, have them take you by there.
I'll tell him, hey, let's go
but
to
hopefully
Matador.
that'll last you for at least a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's really good. And like I say, it sticks with you,
Yeah.
which I kind of like.
I'm going to sprinkle it on the rest of these chips.
Okay.
Not as much. I gave you kind of a pool on that
Yeah.
first one.
Right.
So know that any of those chips have just a dabadoo,
Okay.
and we can nibble on them.
Okay, perfect.
I'll reach across and grab one when
Okay.
appropriate. So
Is there another one with sauce on it?
Oh, yes. This one right here actually has just a drop on it. Yep.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm going to enjoy that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad. That's the goal is, even for not really hot sauce people, they're like, but it's pretty good.
Hey, it's kind of weird, though, crunching chips. I feel like I'm being rude crunching chips on a microphone.
This is what the Loco experience, we do our own thing. Right?
Yeah,
just like your family.
Yeah.
We're going to have a multi-generational family secret
Right.
that puts other people's lives in danger.
Right. Right, that's good. That's good. I like that.
Teach entrepreneurship while we're at it, too.
Yeah, I like that.
So when we jumped, actually, before we come back into the life story,
Right.
I'm going to give a kudo to one of our podcast sponsors is Purpose Driven Wealth Management.
Awesome.
And this is Clint Jasperson, and their Thrivent Financial in general is kind of all about purpose and finding clarity so that you can be generous. You've been a volunteer a lot over the course of your career, and so I know that you've got kind of that generosity instinct woven in.
Yeah, early on when my parents, after they were killed and I was making very good money, I was quite the philanthropist because
Right.
I knew, and I still, I'll do anything to help people out because I really know what it's like to struggle in life
Yeah.
and give people a hand. I say to people this, I'll give you a hand up, but I don't want to just give you a hand out and you're going to keep taking.
Well, and that's the Matthews house at its core
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
So we'll circle back around to your current employment.
Awesome.
But let me ask you one of the purpose-driven questions.
Okay, perfect.
From Purpose-Driven Wealth. Thank you to Purpose-Driven Wealth of Thrivent for sponsoring our Purpose-Driven Questions segment. At Purpose-Driven Wealth, they believe financial clarity leads to a life of contentment and purpose. Their mission is to help guide clients using a values-driven, stewardship-based approach focused on provision, contentment, and enjoyment. With more than a century of experience, Thrivent helps individuals and families navigate life and business transitions and prepare for the future while creating space to live generously and give back in meaningful ways. To learn more about Purpose-Driven Wealth, please call 970-330-7411 for a complimentary initial consultation. And now, on to the questions. I've used this one recently already, but I think it's just such an interesting thing. When someone gives your eulogy one day,
Yes.
Do you have any idea, and maybe it's more than one person, but who would you like to speak for you in that circumstance, and what do you hope they would say?
Can I tell you a little story about eulogies?
Sure. Yeah.
So in September, before my parents were killed, my parents went to a marital retreat. In that marital retreat, they had to write their own eulogies. My parents are killed then in January. I'm living at their house. And
Your sisters are like,
I know where their eulogies are at because they had come home and read them to me.
wow.
So when I did the memorial service for my parents, the eulogies that I read for both of them were written by them only a few months earlier
Wow.
in a marital counseling seminar weekend that they went to. Isn't that wild?
That is so wild.
There's
What
so many wild
what a
stories.
providential element. Yeah. Well, that's once you start seeing those kind of patterns in life, it's easier to see them.
Yeah,
Next
it's
time.
just funny. So let me answer it for me. I have a young man in my life that's also visually impaired. I've known him a long time, Josh.
Okay.
And he knows a lot about me, and I've helped him through a lot of struggles in his life. And really looks at me, I think, as a mentor, and a very, very dear friend. I just spent some time with him and his girlfriend over the weekend. And he would be the one because he has a true understanding dealing with vision loss and dealing with the struggles that occur in our lives and how we come over them and the can-do attitude.
Yeah.
He would be the man that I would pick for me to do a eulogy because he would be able to come at it from a true sense of what I've overcome as a person who's visually impaired and what I've overcome in life in order to make it to where I'm at.
I dig that. Would you like another chip?
Yeah, let's do another
while they're
chip.
freshly sauced. This is the biggest saucy one if you want
Okay.
extra sauce.
Perfect. Yeah, extra sauce is
I like
always
that you
good.
were enthusiastic about that.
Yeah, perfect.
And I'm happy to help if you're like 10 minutes from me, you're like, hey, I want another sauce. And I actually want some more fresh. I don't want it all soaked in. I want some fresh sauce on it. I'm
I
your
don't
man.
think I've ever eaten on a microphone.
Dude,
It's a first for me.
this will be, it might be a first for a lot of people listening too. They're like, man, what a bunch of rookies there at the Loco Experience podcast. Why in the world would they have a hot sauce with crunchy chips?
Yeah, we're not supposed to eat with our mouth closed, but I'm eating with my mouth open and talking at the same time. It's all a very weird experience, but I like it. It's it's fun. It's
People
different.
will know it's not AI.
Yeah, that's true. It's not AI. It's real.
Would you like another purpose-driven question?
Sure, shoot.
Let's talk about aligning business with values and in particular kind of becoming the leader. And like, were you continuing what your parents had started when you came back in, or did you put kind of your own values into the organization, and how did that live out, I guess? Or was it both?
I think a little bit of both. I think my parents were really involved with their employees, cared about them.
Family, almost kind of
Kind of like a
environment.
family thing, I remember my mom helping one of the young ladies that worked for her with a dental issue that she couldn't afford.
Mm-hmm.
I continued that. One of the interesting things for me that comes to mind as you ask this question is, mind you, when I had worked for my parents before they fired me because of drinking, among many things, I would wash cars for them.
Sure.
So I'm a guy that goes from washing cars to owning a business and employing people to wash my cars. But my attitude as an employer was, if I'm asking somebody to do something, I need to also know how to do it myself and be willing to help. Many a times, we're backed up, car rental business is busy, reservations are coming in, and my driver, I remember one time clearly my driver was pulling me into the back of the lot, and we're just backed up, and the young lady that worked for me is just slammed.
Yeah, she's about ready to blow
She's
up.
losing her head. And I said to my driver, stop. I got out of the car, grabbed a hose, grabbed a wash mitt, and her and I started tag teaming cars and washing cars and vacuuming cars out. And that was the mentality that I had.
She wanted to work for you a lot more after that moment than, not that she didn't already appreciate you probably, but that's the kind of thing that builds loyalty.
Absolutely.
Makes you want to refer your friends to come work there.
Yes. When I had my business meetings, and I could tell you many stories on this, but when I had my business meetings, team meetings, let's call it that, with my staff.
Yep.
During a team meeting, I'm talking about the problems that we're having. I'm talking to them about the issues I have with them. But at the end of the meeting, I have this thing I called the chopping block. And what the chopping block was, is that I was going to lay my head on the chopping block. My staff was allowed to say whatever they wanted to me. They were angry. They were pissed off. They thought I had done them wrong. They wanted an idea that they thought I was doing wrong. I clarified it with my staff and said, first of all, there will be no retaliation from me. I am not going to take this out on you. Second of all, I said to them, you may give me an idea. I may expand on it and use it, and I may ignore it. So on the other hand, you give me your idea. You can't be upset that I don't take it. I would share this information with them. I would sit back, total quiet, and say, it's your turn. They would go around to the room, especially new employees it was hard with. They would go around the room, share some really tough things with me sometimes. I would finish by saying, thank you. Let's all get back to work.
Yeah.
And there was times that...
And then you try to make it better.
Yeah, and then I would work on trying to get it better because I think, we all...
Well, if you don't know, you don't know, so that's cool.
I think as a boss, I have to learn to take... I'm going to use the word constructive criticism. Sometimes it seemed to mean.
Yeah.
But as a boss, I have to learn to take constructive criticism because I tell people when you're hiring people, we all have a tendency to want to hire people that are like ourselves.
Sure.
I need to hire people that fill in my weaknesses, and oftentimes I don't get along with those people very well. Like, I don't understand why they do what they do.
That's so... Can I share a small story?
Yeah, go. I'd love to.
So we've got an event coming up next week, and our deadline to put our food order in with Ginger and Baker is end of business today. Literally like 10 minutes ago, probably.
Right.
But we've had kind of a handful of late orders kind of thing and stuff, and we've got a couple people that just shared it with their friends that might want to sign up and stuff.
Right.
And so I was like, well, we need to change it so we can still sell tickets to end of day Friday.
Right.
And Lauren is my chief of staff, and Lauren was kind of annoyed because she's like, well, Kate's going to be annoyed because she told me very clearly that end of day Wednesday is when we have to do the thing. At least you got to give Lauren a heads up. And
right.
I'm like, well, no, because I don't want to make her already. This is an ask forgiveness, not or a beg forgiveness, not an ask permission kind of thing.
I love that world.
And but for Lauren, she's very much a do the thing that the person that's in charge kind of said to do, and you honor that, and don't. And I was like, but do we want, do both Ginger and Baker and Loco Think Tank want 7 more people to sign up between now and Friday? Yes, because they'll sell 7 more meals, and they've got enough eggs to make 7 more breakfast burritos or whatever. They've got enough lunches to do 7 more of those.
Right.
Sure, they want to plan for it exactly and stuff, but it's a big operation.
Right.
And they can absorb our
7 people.
7, no problem.
Yeah.
But I could see that, honestly, that it was like Lauren's style, and that's why I hired her, is to offset against me being fast and loose with everything all the time.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Right? Not why.
Right.
But that's one of the things why. And like as you said, you don't always get along with the people that you need most on your team.
Yeah, I want to respect them, but a lot of times I'm just like, no, I don't want you to do that. And I have to take responsibility for my actions and go, Pat, you're being unreasonable, and you hired this person because I'm like you, it sounds like, really fly by the seat of my pants, I'm like forgiveness rather than permission, And one of my attorneys, he's like, Pat, you always are walking this fine line between legal and illegal, or legal and a problem, and
well, not immoral necessarily.
No,
but
not immoral, but
a lot
it's
of things that are illegal are actually moral sometimes.
When I say illegal, it's like, this is an absolutely stupid law. I don't agree with this law
Right.
that I'm supposed to have
Stupid
this
laws
deadline.
should be ignored.
Yeah, and what are they going to do? Maybe they catch me, maybe they don't catch me. And he's like, but Pat, I'm like, hey, dude, I'm paying you, okay? You're here to keep me out of trouble.
Right.
But he used to joke with me about it because I just like to push the limits, because a lot of times there's just some stupid requirements made of a business and made as me of a business owner that make no sense to me at all.
Must give 72 hours notice to such and such thing about such and such da.
Yeah, you and me aren't going to give a 72-hour notice. It sounds like it's like, hey, here's my 1 hour notice.
He just found out.
Yeah, we're going to turn it over to Lauren and say, hey, Lauren, can you take care of this for me? And this, I'm sure, is not the first time you've put her in this position.
No. She knows who I am, and I know who she is, and that's part of that conversation. And I hope that if she listens to this, which I hope she doesn't, because we're an hour and something in already, and hopefully not on the clock at least. It's like, oh yeah, me listening to you on the Loco experience talking as work time.
Yeah, what are you doing?
She would never. Honestly, she's one of the most high integrity people I've come to know.
That's awesome.
So, Lauren, if you're listening to this, I appreciate you. That's not a story of me unappreciating.
And I think that integrity comes from the people that we're working with. When you work with an employer, a boss, whatever, or have someone that you don't appreciate, you don't respect, how can I expect as an employer to get it back if I'm not giving it?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Let's talk about next big chapters for you. So you're this highfalutin philanthropist, right?
Yeah.
And you're 29 years old. Are you single guy during all this seasons?
Oh, my God.
Mostly, or...
Ladies, please don't take this wrong. But when you're a young guy in your 20s with a lot of money, women see one thing, and that was dollar signs.
Yeah.
And I didn't date or anything. It was too difficult. I had lady friends, but it was just too...
You were a target.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really want to say it, but one of the things I did, because I couldn't drive and I had massive anxiety and stress over not driving, is even though I had a whole fleet of cars, I went out and bought what's called a Fleetwood Formal. It was a 1979 Fleetwood Formal. So imagine a big Fleetwood Cadillac that's been stretched by about 3 feet. It's essentially a small limo.
Right.
So, and I got that very early on, 26, very early on. So my life, revolved around drivers. Let's use the word chauffeurs, but technically they weren't. They worked for me in the car rental business and rotated and everything.
It was Romeo one day, the next day it was Steven.
And my life, anywhere I went was a limousine. And one of the things that I did was my morning staff, my limo would stay at my house. My morning staff would come in, they would go to work. No, that's not what they did. They would drive their personal car and they would punch in when they picked me up at my house. They would then drive me in the limo to work. Now, their shift would get over, because I opened up longer hours to do this. When their shift would get over, they would drive one of my rental cars back to my house, pick up their personal car.
Oh, sure.
Then when my night person took me home, they would get in the rental car, take it back to the rental office.
Right, and drive their personal car.
And then get in their personal car, and that is when their shift ended. So, it didn't work. I mean, I was doing a lot of flying because of business stuff, going to auctions, I very early on started trading flight miles for first class. I did a lot of traveling when I was young because I could.
Wild.
But I did it by myself because nobody could afford. They're all having kids or going to school,
Sure.
Nobody, but I've been a lot of interesting places, done a lot of interesting things as a result of that money.
Do you think that your sense of hearing and listening and maybe even taste and smell and stuff has enhanced for the lack of the vision?
Wow, I've never gotten this question
I know
before.
The hearing and the remembering, it seems like. I mean, you blamed it on having told the story a bunch of times and stuff, but I can also tell that you've got a crisp memory.
Very, very much
many, many things.
The things that are important, they process and log in. I've had friends say, how do you remember that? I'm like, how do you don't? How do you not?
Right.
The way that I answer that question, because as a blind guy, I use the word blind let me put this. Though my vision is 20 times worse than the average person, I use the word blind because it seems to make the most sense to me.
Sure.
Also because when a person that is sighted takes off their glasses, They always say I'm blind without my glasses.
Right.
So why can't I just say I'm blind?
Right,
Because
right.
they're doing the same thing.
Well, and I was just thinking about even these shades. You've got these blind guy shades
Right.
now from the Loco experience, and
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind or be bothered. But
No.
if I put these on, they're semi-dark.
Right.
You know, it's probably a 30% reduction in my sight ability.
Yeah.
You know, so it's only
Minuscule.
15 times or 20 times better
Right.
than yours, or 30 or whatever.
Minuscule.
Right? Yeah, minuscule.
Right. So how the way I answer the question, because I've probably been asked this well over 1,000 times, it's very, very common, is that a person like me, and I'm going to use myself and other visually impaired people, my hearing doesn't miraculously get better. My taste doesn't miraculously get better. My awareness doesn't get better. But I start to use those senses in a different way. I use voiceover technology on my phone, meaning I have technology that will read the screen to my phone. It is fast. Like if I play it for you, you're not going to know what it says.
Wow.
I hear it clear as day.
Sure.
But you read fast. You just don't know you're reading fast.
I used to. I actually listen to more things now because I can't read things
Right.
close very good anymore.
But you used to read fast.
Totally,
So
yeah.
all that's happening, I say this when I'm in crowds. I say to people, do not say something you don't want me to hear. I can't help it, but I'm going to hear what's going on over here. I'm going to hear what's going on over here. I'm going to hear what's going on behind me.
Yeah, yeah.
I need to be totally aware because,
You can log 6 or 8 conversations at the same time and know where they're coming from almost. and
yeah, it's just weird.
You don't know what those people look like at all.
I'm not going to know. I can't recognize a
Right?
face.
If Bill Clinton's sitting over there talking about Hillary,
I'm not going to know.
you might recognize the voice.
Yeah, but I'm not going to know. It's like, is it an imposter? You know, somebody that's imitating him or whatever. I'm not going to know. I can't recognize a person's face past 10 feet. And that is if they aren't moving. If you're walking towards me and we're both moving, you know, like
Harder
this,
still for you to lock on.
I'm never going to process it. I literally
I
have
passed you before you recognized me.
easily. And then it might occur when you're 4 or 5 feet past me who you are. Or it might never
Interesting.
occur to me.
Yeah.
And there's certain people with certain, I'm going to say there's general body types. I don't know how to explain that to me.
Or I'm guessing my beard might be something that you would
Yeah,
identify
your height. You're a
little
tall,
more.
slender guy. You're
Yeah.
going to stick out more to me.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
take, you know what I only know how to describe in my visual world, an average body type,
Yeah.
I don't recognize
They're just
it.
different colored blobs.
Yeah, it's just different, you know. The other thing that's interesting is I begin to notice how people walk. And ironically enough, many people, men more so than women, they generally dress the same. And I recognize those things.
Yeah, yeah.
I recognize mannerisms, all sorts of things, you know, to be aware. I'm a guy, like, a lot of people around here love to wear a hoodie and put the hood up.
Oh, right. That's terrible for you, I bet.
I hate that because I need to know what's coming on and going on behind me. I say,
you putting a hoodie up.
no,
even
I don't put the hood up because I need
Right.
to be able to hear what's going on.
Yeah.
I tell people, I live in Old Town, and if I see flashing lights, I take another direction. The reason for that is I know there's something going on, but I don't know what it is.
Right.
I'm literally a guy that can
And
walk.
I don't need somebody asking me like, hey, what's happening right now?
Yeah, I'm
I
literally,
don't know.
I'm a guy that could walk into a gunfight because if you aren't arguing, if the person holding the gun isn't arguing and screaming, I'm not going to know they're holding a gun. I'm never going to see it until I'm literally in front of it, and the guy with the gun is probably going to go, man, that guy's a lunatic. I've got a gun in my hand. He should be scared. I can't be scared of something I don't see.
So I wanted to ask about, you mentioned that like you might recognize me from 8 or 10 feet away.
Right.
But if I was moving and walking towards you, I might pass you before you would really.
Most likely
Figure it
you're going to
out.
pass me.
And so my curiosity in that space is that like it almost feels like your visual processing not only has it's been starved of enough information to get stronger in some ways even.
I think that my brain, I mean, again, I think my brain functions very differently. I think like it never kind of turns off
Right.
because I have to process everything that's going on.
And your brain is filling in all those gaps.
It's-
like I passed you, your brain is like do beard guy,
Right.
oh slender. I think that might have been Kurt.
Well, here's an example. and this time of year is coming, is I'll be walking down a sidewalk that I've walked before, and off, I don't know how far, it might be 20, 30 feet, there's a dark spot. I'm like, what the hell is that? And meaning, is it a hole? What is it? As I get closer, what it is that somebody watered a plant and the water has gone onto the concrete and made it dark.
Yep.
But my brain doesn't know. I'm processing. All I know is that things are different. Yeah, it might be a witch. It might be, an unhoused person laying in the sidewalk, whatever it might be.
Right, that you got to step over.
Yeah, I have but no matter what, my brain is processing what is that, because it's different than the visual cues that I deal with in that section of the street on a regular basis. The other thing that happens is people think I'm arrogant, rude, stuck up, and the reason is if you're across the room and you wave to me, if you wave like this, I'm not going to see you. If it's people that know, they're going to go, bah!
Yeah, luckily for me, I do the Forrest Gump wave a lot.
Perfect. So people, I say, a friend of mine, I don't even know what it's like to get angry for somebody flipping you off or giving you a dirty look. I don't know what that is because I can't see it.
Sure.
But on the other side, I don't know if I walk by a beautiful lady that smiles at me. I have no idea.
You've never thought to yourself, Lord have mercy, baby's got her blue jeans on.
Yeah, the blue jeans I can tell, but like the look or whatever, it doesn't exist. I just don't know. I'm totally unaware of that. So I think that they say that on average, human communication is about 40% nonverbal. I am missing all of that nonverbal communication in a place like this closeness that you and I have. Not true. But in a normal situation, a gathering, a group, a party, whatever.
Walking down a sidewalk.
I'm missing all of that. I have no clue in the world, If somebody, there's a post outside your door here that I'm guessing is like 20 feet away. If somebody was standing right there, and telling me shush or what, I'm just going to totally ignore them. I have no idea. And then they're going to get upset because
a blur.
I didn't pay attention to what they told me to do with their hands.
That was a fun exploration, and I want to get us back to the business journey and the driving journey and stuff too. So you're rolling.
I'm rolling.
You're rolling. All the girls want you, but you're like, I got no time for you. I'm scared of that. Crazy gingers are like calling you up, but you're like not giving them the time.
I don't want to spend all my money on some woman that's going out with me just because I have money. That's what it came down to.
Yeah.
And it's
you
really
probably had some element of. I don't want to ask this too directly, but like, you're like, how could I believe that you want me except for my money when I've got this kind of sight impediment and stuff? Or was that part of...
My best story of that is I'm at a get-together, large get-together. There's a lot of people. My car comes to pick me up. And I remember her name, Susan. Super attractive, beautiful young lady. She's like, hey, can I check out your car? I'm like, yeah, I'm just getting ready to leave. I open up the door. I get in. Oftentimes, one of my drivers loved to do it for me, but I didn't like that. I get in the car. She gets in, and, I had this massive custom stereo system. She starts hitting on me. Right outside the tinted window is her fiancé.
Okay.
A perfect example of... oh, wow, maybe I could trade in that old model for a newer model.
Turns out you have more money than my boyfriend.
Yeah, maybe I could trade you in for a new model. So, yeah, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And people knew, that I would travel a lot and go places. And it's like, I come back and I'm like, yeah, I spent Christmas in Cancun. And they're like, what? How does a young guy do that?
Yeah, sure.
And I was, due to philanthropy and due to who I was in the business.
Sure. Quite often, if they had those most eligible bachelor kind of events, that they were calling you.
Yeah, I would have stayed away. I would have been like, no thanks. Yeah. But when you've got a Fleetwood limo sitting in your driveway and you own a nice house and you're traveling,
sure. And given thousands of dollars, or
all these indicators, it's super obvious.
Yeah. Well, and that doesn't mean you should be alone all your life either necessarily, right? It's also an interesting criteria. So. Anyway, to get back to the business journey, because I remember you saying something about you. Okay, so broke your driving.
Yeah. So what happened is I'm doing really well in life. I'm 29 when I receive all these awards. I'm doing really well in life, and I'm not happy. the reason I'm not happy is that I didn't necessarily want to be in the car rental business. And the amount of stress that I dealt with was phenomenal.
You're sending cars and vans down to Mexico all the time and
Well,
whatever.
You know, imagine, like, early on, I can remember coming home, keeping my crap together, coming home from work, no more than walking down, or, you know, opening up the door, walking into my home and collapsing in grieving tears. Because my parents, you know, they're dead, and I received through a phone call that they're dead.
Oh, wow. So you never really got any help processing that?
I did, but, you know, when you're just slammed into a business like I was, there's just no way to process it. You're just overwhelmed. You know, it's almost like, okay, this happened, but I got to get this done.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
In 12-step programs, they tell you, do not make any sudden changes in the first year of your life.
Right.
In 6 months, in my first 6 months of my life, I go from being broke, not owning a house, to owning a business, to having employees, to a year later owning a house, to like everything about my life changed in under a year.
Right.
So just tremendous amount of stress. So the stress was getting to me. I was having anxiety attacks, essentially. And I'm, you know, now I'm like 30, 31 years old. And I'm sitting on a board of directors for a nonprofit that works for the blind in Tucson. I meet this guy, this ophthalmologist, that he's like, you know, Pat, I might be able to help you out. I'm like, what?
Tell me more.
He's like, you know, I don't know that your eyesight is that bad. And, you know, in Arizona, we can do this thing called a medical driver's license. And I think I can help you. I'm like, what? Here's another guy, though, because of my position in life and who I am.
Your affluence.
And my affluence, you know.
Sure. He wanted to be your friend.
We go in, and I remember looking at the eye test, and he, I say it's a E pointed what direction. He goes, are you sure? I'm like, okay, how about a C? Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what it is. We go to the next letter. I think that's a S. And I'm making this up because I don't remember.
Sure.
He's like, are you sure? Sometimes I put numbers up there. Oh, yeah, it's a 5. He gives me a medical driver's license, and now my life has changed. And at 32 years old, I decided to sell the business, bought a brand new car, sold the business, and started driving.
Wow.
And illegally again.
Sure.
And ended up moving.
Well, illegally or?
Well, I mean, it was legal.
I mean, yeah, the doctor said it was cool.
You know, it's that gray area right again. You know, that little fine line that I was talking about?
He was the illegal actor more. Well, you were too by
was he
accepting
illegal,
it.
though? You know, I mean, maybe I could see better than I thought, you know, and he was just coaching me, you know, and saying, Pat, are you really sure? You know, it's a kind of a gray area,
Totally
you know.
Gray. Yeah,
it's a pardon the pun, but a gray area.
Yeah.
So I sold that business. I've owned multiple since then, but I sold that business and was able to get my life back, what I called my life back.
Kind of created that separation from the legacy of mom and dad stuff, too.
Right, but took the money, you know, and was able to do other things. You know, I've done a lot of different stuff. And until I said, you know, I moved to Colorado, you know, had a big property up in the mountains of Lyons, you know, driving big trucks, hauling cattle, horses, you know, whole different life, country life, cowboy kind of lifestyle. And in September 12, I knew that I was getting to the point that I had to quit. I used to be married, and I moved to Eaton, Colorado, to a farm. And the change of everything was overwhelming me. Nothing was familiar to me.
Right.
I was struggling running
when
stop
you were driving
signs.
those same roads you always used to drive, it was
Everything
fine.
was memorized. Now, something could happen, I realized.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, so I go to an eye doctor in Eaton, Colorado, and I sit down, and she
like, why in the world did anybody ever give you driver's license?
Then I'll tell you what happens. She's like, okay, read the eye chart for me, line, whatever. And I'm like, you know that machine they put in front of you, to do your glasses?
Click, click, click.
Yeah, click, click, click. I'm like, well, put it on the wall. She was like, Pat, it's on the wall. I literally go like this. I move the machine away. I get up and I walk halfway across the room. I almost collapse. Because halfway across the room, at the top of the eye chart, is this gigantic E.
Oh, damn.
Which is vision of 2400, which is what the normal person sees in 400 feet. I'm seeing in 20 feet.
And you can't read it.
halfway across the room. I can, dude, I can read it. I'm fine. I'm halfway across the room. Come on, I'm reading it. I sit back down, and she's like, "You're driving?" I'm like, "Yeah, my 1-ton truck sitting right out there in the parking lot." She couldn't believe it.
Is this a young girl or somebody that's been doing it for 20 years?
Probably somebody in their 40s.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
So it's not her first rodeo, but she's like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe."
Shocked. She's shocked, She's like, I mean, I'm sure she said to me, "I've never met anybody like you that's doing this." Because, I mean, remind you, I'm seeing the dang crosswalk one pickup truck length away from the...
Sure, yeah.
From, the light one pickup length away from the crosswalk. So, I said to myself that day, Pat, you've gotten away with a lot. You've taken a lot of risk. And now a doctor knows. And that day, I decided to come out of the closet, to step up, to be honest, and to get back to integrity. And that day, I cut up my driver's license and quit driving. For many reasons, but, it's like, I guess it was like drinking, Okay, I'm going to quit tomorrow. I'm going to quit next week. I'm going to quit on January 1st. Sure. The reality is the best time to do anything is today.
Yep. And you knew it was dangerous.
And, I knew a doctor knew now.
Yeah.
For sure. No dishonesty. A doctor knew. So I quit driving that day. And that was September of 12. Never have driven on the roads. I'll say I've driven a couple of cars like in the country or whatever. Never driven since then. Hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Still difficult for me to this day because I say to people, the vision loss is one thing. But what most people don't understand, your life completely exists because you have a driver's license. If you do not have a driver's license, you don't go to your job, you don't go to the ice cream place, you don't take a trip, you don't go hiking, you don't do any of those things.
Right.
When you pull that driver's license and it's gone, freedom, choice, independence, all gone.
Well, and yes, and for a lot of people, and in Fort Collins in particular, a bicycle or an electric bicycle can fill that patch. But not for you.
I can't do that.
It's far too dangerous, right?
I've tried the bicycle thing, and I can do it, but
That's gotta be terrifying.
I'm like, okay, I think the lights,
Like walking speed seems like a little bit insecure for me. Like bicycle speed seems terrifying.
Yeah, like one time I'm rolling down Mason when I tried it. I'm rolling down Mason by Mountain, and there's no indicators. There's no traffic.
Right.
So nothing to indicate to me.
No idea if a car is going to broadside
if a car's,
you
and I'm
anytime.
like, okay, I think it's okay. And
no, thank you.
The light was red, the gas wasn't there. Then I started going like, okay, 4-way stops I can handle because they have to do a 4-way stop or I'm stopping. So I tried that. Then I can cut through alleys. Then I get out on the trails out there past, Lee Martinez Park out there?
Yep.
I get on the trails out there and, it's difficult for me to...
Well, where's the edge of the trail?
Well, the kind of sort of,
It gets a lot lighter gray, or darker brown instead of light gray.
Yeah, I'm figuring it out as I go. But one of the things that would happen is I can't see. This was when I was driving. This has always been this way. If I'm in the sunlight rolling into a shadow, I can't see into the shadow. So if I'm cruising along, like let's say when I drove, if I'm cruising along and in the shadow there's a car accident, I'm just full throttle going to hit it.
Yeah.
So on the bicycle, that's happening, and there would be a corner in the shadow. I'm not seeing it. So I just decided,
Yeah.
being
Dude,
visually,
I'm proud of you.
Being visually impaired
is a sacrifice. Like there's doing things that are good for the world with a positive self-interest too. I've said around local think tank before that we look for the win-win-win-win, but we'll settle for the win-win-win.
Right.
When the notion of sacrifice comes up, then it's actually, but I kind of lose here. Right, but it's for the better of all, kind of, and it's for the future generations,
right?
And ultimately, it's just kind of better. It's right, and so I guess I just want to honor your sacrifice in that.
Thank you. And as you say that, it doesn't make me teary-eyed, but it makes me emotional because really what I have done is for the good of the people or for honesty and integrity. I have made my life very difficult.
Yeah.
And doing the right thing, but it seems like always in life, doing the right thing is difficult.
I had an old boss from 20 some years ago now that used to say, and he was actually a terrible person.
Hope he's not listening.
Probably not.
Yeah.
He's too narcissistic. Why would he care what I've got to say or you?
Right.
But no good deed goes unpunished.
That is
he would say.
I 100% have said that a million times.
Yeah, and it's I've repeated it a bunch. Like usually I don't like. I repeat a Bill Cosby line as well, even though he's also persona non grata.
Right.
But his was I don't know the secret to success, but the secret to failure is to try to please everybody.
Right.
And
it's taking the high road and being honest, unfortunately, is very difficult. Mm-hmm. I've had many, when I quit driving that day, essentially everyone in my life criticized me. They're like, Pat, why did you do it? I'm like, well, when am I supposed to do it?
Right.
Tomorrow, next week, what if something happens?
Right.
I said, I am aware of the problem today. I need to solve. I went to the eye doctor because I wondered. I said, I'm aware of the problem today, and I need to solve the problem today. And
there just isn't a solution.
There's no solution.
If I could get a 4-inch thick set of eyeglasses, I would wear them.
Yeah, if there was some way. There's technology out there. There's some new technology in the AI world. Some glasses, they're not out yet, maybe end of the year, that may help me. But
plug it right in there almost.
$3,000 for a set of eyeglasses that, and there's a 30-day return policy. They're not even on the market yet. They're just in a prototype stage. But $3,000, I think all they would allow me to do is read a computer normally or maybe see a book, because I think that the distance in which they will work, focusing or whatever, is, I think they're from the UK.
Still less than 10 feet, kind of.
Meter and a half, I think, is what they say. So, and not moving, because the reality of most cameras is if you're going like this,
right,
it's not focusing. Our eyes are very special. So I believe that maybe the technology will come along so that someone like me could get back to driving, but
you're not counting on.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I have people tell me all the time, what about self-driving cars? It's unlikely that a person like me will ever be able to do that. And the reason has nothing to do with technology in the car. The reason goes back to the driver's license. Mm-hmm. Is the state of Colorado the United States, but just use the state of Colorado, going to change all their laws and say, we're going to get a guy that's blind a special driver's license, and he doesn't have to drive. And then the next step is, who are they going to insure, because they can't insure me.
Right.
So the chances of it ever happening,
I don't know. You might be surprised on that one, because the insurance premiums for people that use self-driving mode most of the time now is half of what their premiums are if you don't.
I have a guy that his...
So, I don't know. I'm going to say that in the next 5 years or so, you might find out that you could get some kind of provision.
Okay, I'm coming back in 5 years. I'm going to have the self-driving car here.
I hope so, yeah.
And we're going to see
go for a ride.
Yeah, we'll go for a ride.
I'll put you on the back of my motorcycle and give you a ride up the canyon. That would be pretty interesting for a sight-limited person.
I've ridden, I literally, visually impaired, have done dirt bikes, off-road ATVs.
Oh, you've ridden them, not just ridden behind.
Hell no.
You just ride.
I've done dirt bikes.
Flying down a gravel road.
I had an enduro bike at one time when I lived in Lyons, and I would go ride up in Estes Park, but I knew I couldn't get the legal license.
Sure.
So I just kept the plates on. I had somebody put the plates on and went cruising on an enduro bike, I would turn left, I want to go on this trail. I'm like, I'm 90% sure there's not a car coming,
Right.
I had a couple of accidents because, one time coming in and I'm like, I thought it was a trail going up.
Uh-huh.
But it's a rock wall that you're coming to. And you're meant to come down it, not go up it. So I'm rolling, and I go into that rock wall with the front tire and realize, a rock crawler, but it's not meant for a motorcycle.
Right.
I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But I've done dirt bikes, ATVs, UTVs. I did some illegal road racing, with sports cars. I've owned sports cars, muscle cars. I've driven so many things. that I wasn't supposed to drive. I tell people when I work in the blind and visually impaired and do volunteer work, I say to them, I don't want you to do what I did, meaning lie.
Sure.
But by lying, I have proved that a visually impaired person can do much more than they believe
Yep.
or that society believes they can do.
Yep.
Because the biggest drawback of visual impairment, blindness, is sometimes it's the mentality of the person,
Sure.
but it's society. And the sighted people believing, how can a person
judging
probably...
that person kind of, yep.
I'm really open about my vision loss. I joke about it. I let people kind of make fun of me or whatever that I know, because I think humor more than anger or anything, I think the humor gets people to realize and opens up the door. And I believe that as a blind person, I need to be an ambassador for people like me.
Yeah.
And if I come across as angry, resentful, mean, whatever, they're going to think everybody blind is that way. So I choose to just joke about it. Let's have fun, and ask me any stupid question you want, because I've probably heard it.
I would like to talk about your work a little bit. I don't know if we talked about this, but I was on the board for the Matthews House. My wife was like their 7th employee back in 2008 or so.
Wow.
So I've got a very long relationship
Yes,
with the
you told me
Matthews
this,
House.
yeah.
And I want to know how you got involved at the landing, and like, what do you do, and what do you do to compensate to do your job well?
I'm about to surprise you again.
Okay.
So I started at, hey, is there some chips with
Yeah,
sauce?
I was going to hook you up with...
I saw you move. Is there one with sauce right
not
there?
Not yet. I'm going to hook you up with some fresh sauces.
Okay, I saw the movement, and I'm like, hey, let's do that.
Yeah, I'm going to... Because the sauce is kind of soaked in now. We don't want that. We want some fresh fresh love.
For me, one of the struggles of not driving is time on my hands. It's hard to fill time and difficult to get a job to fill time. So this is 26, 25. In 24, I signed up and I started volunteering at the Matthews House at their location where they do drop-in services for youth up on Mason Court, I think it is.
The family center.
Yeah, the family center up there.
Yep.
They were getting ready to open up the landing, which is down in Loveland.
Yep.
And they were having their grand opening, and I never thought about asking them for a job. And I went and volunteered to help set up tents and tables and all sorts of stuff like that.
Okay.
And I realized that I knew the manager, that when she had originally, which this manager is no longer there, but the person that they originally hired, that I knew her through volunteering.
Oh.
So I went up and said, hey, do you have any positions? And she said, Pat, I have a position that, fill in, helping out when people are sick or people are taking vacation or doesn't show up to a shift. So I'm like, perfect. I went on Indeed, I applied, I get the job. I start working there in January of last year.
Okay.
This is 26. Yeah.
You want that chip now?
Yeah, perfect.
Here, I'll just hand it to you. Boom.
I appreciate the awareness. That made it a lot easier than making.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. Like for me, that plate would be a dark color to create contrast.
Right. The
Like-
little bit of germs that might be on my fingers are way less dangerous than the chance that you're going to spill
Dude,
sauce
I touched
all
the
over.
doorknobs and stuff already. How bad can it be?
Right. I can talk
Folks-
for a moment while you chew.
Folks, I'm sorry. I know it's
Normal,
weird.
I wouldn't do this, Pat says.
That's so weird to me. So, I get hired.
Cool.
Go through training, all that stuff. Took a while till the shelter gets rolling, gets the word out, etc. But here's where it gets weird. I'm floor staff, meaning I'm going to work with kids, but there's all these things that need to be done. Shelves need to be hung, and file cabinets need to be put together, and all that. My history and so much construction background and fixing and repairing,
Sure.
I start doing all that. So my work at the landing is floor staff, working with youth, 15 to 20 years old, but I do the vast majority of all their repair, all of their maintenance, all of the, wet or water leak. We had stuck drains, I've had toilets that are overflowing, water leaks. All of that stuff, I do it.
You're the easy button for that property, kind
Yeah.
of.
And maintenance, janitorial guy, whatever you want to call it. I do the maintenance, all that stuff for that property. I do it because I enjoy it. But the other thing is what I'm doing is showing at-risk youth, because they all know, we joke. They're like, Pat, you're blind, you can't see it. But what they say is, in fact, a young lady just said this to me yesterday on my shift. She's like, Pat, I don't know how you're doing it. But she said, thank you for showing me and how to overcome overcome difficulties and challenges. And we're talking about, she goes, how does a blind
100%.
person hang shelves and make it straight? Or how do they fix a water leak? Or I'm like, how do you not? I don't know. And I jokingly, a young lady gave me a ride home after work, which was great, saves me on Uber costs. And we were joking, and I said, I'm likely to be possibly the only blind person working in a homeless shelter for unhoused youth or any unhoused person. But I'm probably likely to be the only one, period, who is a blind guy who's doing their maintenance, repair, and all of those types of things. Like, when I go to put a screw in the wall, I can't really see the screw. Like, it's a dark color.
Just built your feelings for what it feels like when the Phillips goes into the bit and when it's all square.
Yeah, I can close my eyes and do it because I'm looking for a feel.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll say to somebody, like, I couldn't get this screw to come out, and I couldn't figure it out. And I take pictures of stuff and zoom in, but then it's blurry. I bring one of the staff members. I'm like, what is this? Well, they used security screws, so they're not Phillips. They're not
Allen
Allen's.
screw instead, or a star or something.
It's this odd screw.
Right.
My brain doesn't know nothing about those things.
Right. Doesn't have a map for that.
Doesn't have a map. We just had to expand on the adult side, 18 to 20-year-old. So on the minor side, 15 to 17-year-old, I pull those bunk beds apart, I have a participant help me, move all those bunk beds over, restack the bunk beds, pull the lockers off the wall, move the lockers over, re-put the lockers, blah, 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 It seems so normal to me, but one of the kids, he's like, I tell people the place that I have, there's a blind handyman, and then I'm like, and then what? And then they don't believe me, he said. He goes, I don't know how to explain it to him.
Yeah. Well, but that's huge because, poverty a lot of times is poverty of hope as much as it is poverty of money, And so for these kids that, for whatever reason, find themselves temporarily unhoused.
Yes.
Usually it ain't a good reason, right? They're escaping something worse than that. And sometimes they just don't know. They haven't had enough people tell them how much they're worth it.
If they had love, caring, and support, they wouldn't be where they're at.
Right.
They don't have that. And,
so therefore they have a low self-opinion of themselves a lot of times. And so to think, I can do that too. If blind dude can fix the shelves,
I can do it.
I can.
Why can't I?
I can get a job.
You know? And, one of the things I say to the youth, it's a weird job in some ways. And one of the things I say to them, as they're prepared, I mean, we've had many who, got jobs, gotten housing, their lives getting
they're moving them through. I was just at their special event the other day.
Moving through, And I literally will say to them, I'm glad I've got to meet you. I honestly hope I never see you again.
Yeah.
Because if I see them again, they're back there and has put them back there. Or I'll say it another way. I am sorry you're here. But while you're here, let's do the best we can. Because the interesting thing about the landing is it's not just a shelter for unhoused youth.
Yeah.
Every resource,
Yep.
If you want to better your life, if you want things to get better, work on housing, work on GED, work on graduating high school, work on how do you get SNAP. I don't care what it is.
Maybe.
Yeah, anything it is. If you want to do it. But the other thing I say, just, let's go back to my world of alcoholism, addiction. I cannot make somebody quit drinking or doing drugs. I cannot make these youth want to get a job, want to better their lives. I can only be an example of here's what can be done, because they also know.
Hand up, right?
Yeah, and I can say, hey, I'm here to help you. But if you don't want it, there's nothing I can do about it. And the other thing that goes into my brain as I'm doing that is I say, maybe they're not ready. But maybe seeing me or knowing somebody cared a week,
matters.
a month, a year, you've planted a seed. And, hey, that's a good idea.
You want this one?
Yeah.
There you are. Yeah, man.
I got to go. This is really uncomfortable. You're used to it. To me, it's just so weird.
Well, this is a new thing for us, actually, eating it live on stage. But
how many people have done this?
Maybe 6 or so.
Okay, well, I hope the 5 before me were the same as me. Like, this is weird.
Everybody's enjoyed it so far.
I like the chips, but it's just weird eating on my microphone.
I like to make my listeners suffer.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I can't see you doing it, so.
Thanks for that voice. I really think that's this job quote unquote job or this purpose at the Matthews house isn't just, I can fix stuff good and support the floor. It's also I can help inspire kids that they can find their way to a really fulfilling life as well.
We have a Connex that we put all the kids. So the law is 21 days in, a 2-day discharge, then they can come back.
I see.
Okay. So when they discharge, we got to pull their bunk down, pull all their bedding. I'm not bedding. They're bedding, but their clothes and stuff.
Open
and they
up
go
that
in.
spot, kind of almost.
We have a Connex that volunteers built shelves in, and all that stuff goes into the Connex. Had a young lady that just came back from her discharge and needed to get stuff out of the Connex. And I'm walking her back there last night. It's dark. I have a flashlight. I wish we'd done it earlier, but I didn't want to push her, And she says, Pat, you're a really nice guy. I super appreciate you helping me. And I said, thank you. And I thought to myself when she said that, she most likely has had problems with men. Who knows what men have done and how they've treated her. And I'm giving her an example of a respectful man, a man that cares, a man that wants to help, maybe a father-type look figure,
Sure.
I'm giving her that, and that is something that maybe she's never experienced in her life.
Yeah, or certainly far too little of it.
Very little of it, Because they're, my Lyft drivers pick me up there at the landing, and they always have questions, and I can share generically as I am now.
Sure.
They're always amazed. Some of them are like, I would have never thought. And they'll ask me, what puts somebody in this position? What puts a youth in this position? I said, there is no one answer.
No.
None. I said, I can't even give you a general term. I said, maybe there's some general, but I said, it's endless. It's
kind of like what turns somebody into an entrepreneur.
Right. It's kind of like,
Just kind of a perfect storm of situations sometimes.
I guess it's kind of like also, being visually impaired, being blind. There is an infinite spectrum of ways that lose their eyesight and different vision loss, just like there is an infinite spectrum of how a youth ends up in a shelter where we're at. Mm-hmm. But
well, thank you for that service. I really appreciate that as a supporter of the Matthews House and just knowing what great examples can do for kids.
Yeah, and thank you. Thank you for recognizing that, and you're welcome, because it can be a very tough job.
I'm sure. These kids are tough, right? They're like they wouldn't be there if they weren't tough too, to some extent.
It can be a very tough job. I think I've never actually had any of the youth lose it with me or get upset with me or whatever. I think part of it is my age, but part of it is different than a lot of people. I have an understanding of challenges of life because of my vision loss.
Totally.
And I'm coming from a real space, not from a book.
So I was 4'11" in 7th grade, and then 5'1" at the end of 10th grade.
Wow.
So for all of middle school plus,
right,
I didn't grow basically.
Right.
And I was Kurt the Squirt, and I was smart.
Right.
But like all my classmates were like 60 pounds more than me and a foot taller.
Right.
And it was misery at the time. Honestly, I was super depressed and things like that. And like I credit it now as being probably a major formative for me to be able to listen to and connect with people of lots of different kind of stripes. Because I was the little guy with no cards at one point, no social credibility, no girls wanted my number, in middle school. And so I think there's a certain validity to that, to having been there, So
I don't think that, at least my experience, but
nobody's been where you've been, but having struggled.
I don't think how many of us really learn something from something good happening to us.
Right.
We learn from the challenges and we learn from the loss. I've dealt, obviously, as I say, lots of loss, lots of grief, lots of problems. But there's what made me stronger. It's that saying, what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. That's no joke.
Sure.
I can think of some of the joyous things, but none of the joyous things are the ones that are like, oh, yeah, I learned this because I had so much money. Life was so great, and this is what I learned. Those aren't the memories that come when I come to life lessons that I've learned. That doesn't come to my mind.
I'm going to, unless there's anything you'd want to share that I haven't asked about so far, we'll...
No, it's been, terrific. You said to me, Pat, I'm pretty good at just ad-libbing and figuring it out, and I really do appreciate that. I appreciate the hot sauce, And the interest and the time that you've put into helping the Matthews House, that is all so, so important, because the general public just has no clue. They never even think that there's going to be some kid out there that doesn't have a home.
Right back at you, and we're not done yet, because the final segment is the Loco experience.
Okay.
And that is the craziest experience of your lifetime that you're willing to share. A lot of times people take shots or something like that.
Yeah.
I won't offer that.
Yeah.
If you want to take a shot of hot sauce, I would.
No, I'm passing on that.
Okay, let's not. But what's a really crazy specific experience along the way, whether it's got to do with your vision impairment or business acumens or, obviously your parents' tragic and sudden passing was a crazy experience.
I think when I come to crazy experiences, the reality in a weird way, I think my entire life has been a crazy experience driving without vision. But when you talk about crazy experiences, I wanted to go out and do a whole bunch of things. I think one of my craziest experiences, there's 3 that come to mind. The first one was I wanted to learn how to jump out of planes, skydive.
Okay.
It's super weird because a lot of people are doing it for the scenery and everything. And once it doesn't exist, I'm just doing it for the thrill of the jump.
Yeah.
And
I understand physics enough to know this is probably supposed to be scary.
Yeah. And the first time I did a solo jump, I blacked out. And, they had the ripcord to pull, and I blacked out, and I said it to the guy, and he's like, "You're pushing so much adrenaline, you're blacking out on the adrenaline."
Wow.
Another time was, when I was 40, I'd never ridden a bull, and I cowboyed a lot.
Okay.
So I decided, let's try this out. I did it a couple of times. The guy's like, "You're a natural." I'm like, and I'm natural enough to know I don't want to do this
Somebody's
again.
going to get hurt.
And I think right up there with crazy experiences was in my 20s, able to travel. I went to Belize.
Okay.
And I caught a taxi with some people that I met at the Guatemalan border. And this is in the 90s, way safer. Caught a taxi at the Guatemalan border, and we're heading to the Mayan ruins of Tikal.
Cool.
We come around the corner, and there's what we would probably call today terrorists. Back then, we were calling them guerrillas. And I'm not talking big, hairy guerrillas.
Yeah.
I'm talking a whole bunch of young people.
With bandanas and guns.
Machine guns.
Yeah.
And they make us get out, and they go through our bags and all of our stuff, and I can't remember if we had to pay them off or whatever to get out of there, Ended up at the Mayan ruins, which is incredible. Wow. Absolutely. I wish, probably one of only a few places I'd go back to. I think I've just had a lot of crazy experiences because, I've ran bulldozers, excavators, all sorts of equipment that you're not supposed to be doing with eyesight like this.
For sure.
I think my whole life is probably a crazy experience.
I would not disagree. And I'm both proud of you for doing all the many things that you did in that space, living as a sighted person while not being that capable.
Right.
And even more than that, I'm equally so, I suppose, proud of you for setting it down for your own safety, for the safety of others around and things. And so both of those things I really think deserve to be highlighted.
Thank you.
In this closing.
It was tough. I super appreciate that because vision loss is tough. There's no 2 ways about it. But I'm a prime example. You can overcome it. You can succeed. You can do things. It's going to be hard.
That's life too.
You just got to try. You just got to try.
Well, God bless. Thank you for sharing the
Thank
time.
you so much. I appreciate your time and the hot sauce and the chips. Yeah, I'm going to have another off mic.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Bye for now.